very, very intense journey.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 161 of the Frameskip podcast. I am Andie Eller, and I'm joined on this fine Tuesday evening, if you're watching us live here on YouTube, by George from Shortbox Summary. George, what's going on?
Absolutely nothing is going on. And I just double checked. Yeah, we're at 161, baby. That was the last one in the feed. We did it.
We're back. Yeah, it's been a few weeks, so but a few weeks without you George. I wish we had the other guys here, and one of them may make an appearance at some point in this episode, but for now it's just the two of us. And yeah.
It is. Yeah, I actually missed an episode. I couldn't participate. I was super sick a few weeks ago. And I feel bad. I haven't actually listened to it, but I remember being really excited because I'm like, oh man, for the first time in forever, I can just listen to you guys recording a podcast the way I used to just listen to you guys recording a podcast. Yeah. So I have made plans. I have told Aaliyah, my girlfriend, that I'm not doing jack shit on Friday. I'm going to play Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings, which is a very bad PlayStation 2 and Wii game. But it's like a relatively easy platinum. You just got to play through the game and find some collectibles. And I've decided to completely whore out my trophy sensibilities. And man, I'm just going to listen to that episode. It's my Friday plan. I always try to save. I've been falling back in love with GameScoop recently.
Yeah.
Just because like I used to get really frustrated with those guys because I'm like, oh, listen to these old heads. Like it's just the same dudes who've been doing it for so long. And then I've like completely, and I was like, oh, screw that. And I've completely come back around where I'm like, no, these kids today don't know shit. I need the old heads. I need someone who remembers like how uncomfortable it was to hold an NES controller for too long, or someone who like actually defends the shape of an N64 controller and doesn't just say everyone who designed this was smoking crack. I'm like, no, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. They made a bet. They made a bet that it is either going to be 3D gaming or 2D gaming. They made two bets at once. So they gave you the controller for 2D gaming and a controller for 3D gaming. Screw you kids. You don't know what you're talking about. So I like to listen to GameScoop on Friday and play games. And now I'm going to add that very exciting episode that I didn't participate on to that playlist. I'm excited.
See, the funny thing is, like, now that we do the show this way, I never get that opportunity because I have to be here for the show to happen. So
I think we tried to record an episode without you once, and we were like, "Fuck it, this is too hard." And then, like, it got to the point where I was like, "Do you guys want a link to whatever that site was we used to use? Not Riverside, the other one, Zencastr."
Yeah,
I actually bought a Zencastr subscription because a friend of mine was like, "Dude, let's do the movie podcast we've always been talking about." I'm like, "I'll do it with you on the condition that I don't edit shit.
Yeah,
I've got my own stuff to worry about. I will participate. I'll be there for you weekly. It's gonna be tough during NFL season, but I'll be there." And of course, I was like, but here's the deal. We got to record 8 episodes before we publish a single one, just so we have a bank, so we've got some time to work with. He's like, that's so smart. I appreciate that. That sounds great. We got to 6 in the bank. And then it's just been like ping pong, just like, oh, can you record this Saturday? Like, no, actually, I can't this Saturday. Can you do Tuesday? Like, absolutely not. I can't do Tuesday. It's just shit like that. And I'm like, okay, see, this is why we didn't publish when we had an episode. That's why we got to wait.
Scheduling is so hard as an adult. I mean, I've certainly realized that with the 4 of us. Like, you know, it's so difficult, and it's hard to stay consistent. It really is. So I respect those that you know, do work full-time jobs like all of us, but still sit down and record every week.
Well, that and like I think it'd be harder. I think honestly, us being digital is easier than us being local.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
Like if we all lived in the same city, we would see each other way more, but we'd be way less interested in doing the podcast because I think we'd get all of our energy out just by playing games. We'd like, yeah, we could record a podcast, or we could play Smash for an hour and a half.
Sure,
that sounds like way more fun.
Well,
so it's good for the show that we're digital, but it's bad for our brains that we're digital.
That's right. Our brains are going to melt. So, but yeah, it's been a few weeks. I think it was maybe 3 weeks ago we last did a show. So good to be back here doing one. And frankly, I've had a lot going on. George, anything in particular you want to? We're just kind of free flowing this episode, but anything in particular you have been up to this past few weeks? Been playing, been watching? Anything you want to talk about?
I have gotten really quickly back into How I Met Your Mother. I was obsessed with that
Hmm.
show when I was in college,
Nice.
just because I'm like, oh, these guys are older than me. This is like what my mid 20s and early 30s is going to be like. And then, man, that show goes on, and I just get really pissed at Ted. I just think he's like not even a scumbag, just like an idiot. You know, like it's not he's
Yeah.
not like a bad guy. He's just like a really annoying guy. And I feel bad because I like the actor Josh Radnor. But I've been going back and rewatching those early like first. I think I'm halfway through season 2 now, almost season 3. And I'm like, man, this show was like really special for the first couple seasons. So I don't know if I'm gonna do a full series commit rewatch because, like I said, it does get frustrating and like really ridiculous.
Yeah.
But man, those first couple seasons are so much fun. Besides that, I've been catching up on my comic books. I am completely caught up on all the X-Men titles. I am completely caught up on all the Star Wars titles. I'm completely caught up on all of Marvel, all of DC.
Wow.
And I actually went through and ranked them on S tier, A tier, B tier, all that stuff. So really quickly, let me just say what my rankings. I'm just going to do the S tiers. I just want to talk about the books that I think you should
For sure.
absolutely be reading. Let's see. So, X-Men comic rankings, no S tier books. There are simply none. For A tier though, this is the only one I'm going to do A tier for. Laura Kinney Wolverine, starring Laura Kinney, like the Daphne Keene from the
Right.
Deadpool movie and Logan movie. Sabretooth, Dead Don't Talk, which I've never given a shit about the character Sabretooth once in my life. This book is awesome. And then the X-Men title. Just X-Men, no adjective.
Okay.
That book, honestly, could probably be a B, but of all the team books, it's the one I'm enjoying the most. For Marvel proper, Fantastic Four. And there's an event right now going on called One World Under Doom, where
I
Doom
saw that.
became the Sorcerer Supreme because Doctor
Yeah.
Strange had died in a previous event. He's not dead. He still has like his astral projection, but like no body. Whatever, it's comics, whatever. That event is excellent, and the Fantastic Four book, I think it's on issue 28 or 29 now. It's been great from the start. It actually has really big Doctor Who vibes. So if you are,
Okay.
and I know you're a big Fantastic Four fan, so I recommend
Yeah.
that book a lot. Incredible Hulk is just a Southern Gothic horror story. That one's super gorgeous. Moon Knight, which has been going on, they just started like a new volume, so I think they're on issue 5 is the most recent one. The
Yep.
previous volume is by the same creative team, so it's kind of connected. Really annoying shit that Marvel does. But everything Moon Knight since like 2020 has just been like one of my favorite books. Scarlet Witch is absolutely fantastic. That one is also on like issue 9, I think, of this volume. There was a previous volume that I think went to 10 or 12 issues, and then like a Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver miniseries. This is why people hate comics, because it's really complicated to keep up with that. But basically anything Scarlet Witch going back to like 2021, 2022, can't recommend that enough. Miles Morales Spider-Man, that shit's been super fun. And finally, for Marvel, Aliens vs. Avengers is a crossover epic written by Jonathan Hickman and with art by Assad Ribic. And it is the most dour, depressing shit. There's like one final city on Earth. Everything else has been completely destroyed. Heroes have died because of the xenomorph infestation that
That's
has come
awesome.
to Earth.
I have not heard of this.
It is so good. Issue 3 just came out. It's a 4-issue miniseries.
It's called Aliens versus Avengers.
Aliens vs. Avengers. That book is
Okay.
so fucking good. DC rankings for S tier. Birds of Prey, nice team book starring an all-female cast, written by Kelly Thompson, who's a multiple Eisner Award winner. Very good stuff. Wonder Woman. The big complaint about this book is that it's not like a Wonder Woman in her day-to-day. It's like people telling stories about Wonder Woman, so she doesn't have like a lot of agency because it's just like how she's affected the world, basically. I think it's super epic. I'm not going to fault anyone for not enjoying it, especially because the writer Tom King is such like a slow burn storyteller. I'm really enjoying it though. Poison Ivy by G. Willow Wilson and a bunch of other artists whose names escape me right now. I'm sorry to the artist. I don't mean any disrespect. Just her being an eco-terrorist. It's fucking awesome. Just her trying to save the world one planet at a time. New Gods, issue 3 just came out last week. Just epic storytelling with characters you don't know very well, and they just play by a completely different set of rules. Absolute Superman, Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, which is like... There was a special last year where Darkseid dies, basically, except he doesn't die. He essentially creates a new universe within himself. and he is the god of that universe. So like it's all these characters, origins are different. Superman doesn't land as like a baby picked up by the Kents. It's like a completely fucked up sci-fi world he's on. Batman, his mom is alive. He's like an architect and like an engineer. So it's just little twists on all these characters. Wonder Woman was raised by Cersei in the land in hell, basically, and comes out to save the world. So it's just like fresh modern twist on these characters. And then finally Metamorpho, which is just a very pretty weird book written like it's from the 60s, but not annoying like it's from the 60s. So that was your comics corner, and I'm going to stop talking for a while because I want to know what you've been up to, Austin.
Well, man, thank you for the rundown, though. I mean, it's good to, especially that Fantastic Four book you mentioned. I mean, obviously you brought it up, but I've always been a long time Fantastic Four fan. And by the way, that the trailer for the new movie looks so good. That's like the only MCU thing I'm really looking forward to be honest with you. I know.
Did you see Captain America?
I didn't, and I was going to ask you that. Did you see it?
I wanted to because we were in Boston, so like a movie theater we could walk to, but we couldn't justify spending 2 hours in a movie theater when we could.
Yeah.
Oh, I went to Boston this past week. I didn't tell the podcast. I went to a Celtics game, super fun. Went to Chinatown. Went to East Boston to all of our old. We used to live there. In fact, when we met at PAX East, and like I was living in Boston at the time.
Yeah.
Back in 2014, 2015 ish. And so we went back there. We couldn't no, it's movie. No, we don't want to be in a movie theater. We want to go to this old karaoke bar and get a scorpion bowl and drink our faces off. So we just did stuff like that.
So do you want to see it? Like, is it something you want to go see in a theater, or what's your plan with it?
I do. I think we're kind of getting a little out of control when it comes to movies. Yeah. Like we've talked about this idea before that like things need to be more disposable. And that's actually something I want to talk about to you when we breach lightly the state of play. We're not going to do a super in-depth report on the state of play. But also, like, I think it's okay for a movie to be a C. I'm not looking for a movie to ever change my life. It's great when it does, but like I'm not mad at a movie for not changing my life. I think like just getting on base is cool. Like if a movie's a single or a double, it doesn't have to be a home run every time. I'm withholding that judgment for this movie because I've heard some like pretty bad things, and just like the amount of like reshoots, it just sounds like it wasn't conducive to like a good creative environment. But I do want to see it. Captain America is one of my favorite, not even characters, just concepts of a character. This dude who's so head over heels in love with the idea of America that they're willing to fight the state of America. I think that is not just now. Like I love this book since I was 7 years old. I love the character, the concept. So but also especially fucking now seems pretty cool to me. Dying to see it. It's just not playing near me.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to do, to be honest with you. Like, this is the first MCU movie in a really long time where I've just had zero excitement for it. Like, there have been other movies where I haven't been quite as excited for, or certain TV series, and I've still watched them. But this was really the first one to come out where I'm just, I don't know. There's like it came out, and it wasn't the reviews. Like, I was feeling that way leading up to the movie. Where I just really wasn't interested whatsoever, and I don't know why. So I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like, it seems like a good movie that you would see in theater. I mean, you've got Red Hulk and all these, you've seen them in the trailers, but all these, high flying, quote unquote, action scenes, and it seems like a very good like theater experience. I just don't know. For some reason I'm like hesitant to spend the money to go see it.
I think I figured out where Marvel fucked up. And so I think it's the same problem with Mass Effect Andromeda, where like everyone who played Mass Effect Andromeda couldn't stop comparing it to the Mass Effect trilogy. And it's like, that's actually not fair, man. Like, you got to compare it to Mass Effect 1. How does it compare to Mass Effect 1? Because it's the first time you're meeting these characters, you're starting your stories with them. The mechanics are super familiar, but the story is what you care about when it comes to Mass Effect. And it's like, that's the game you compare it to. You don't get to compare it to the trilogy. That's not fair. And Marvel fucked up because they tried to immediately tell a story that was bigger than Phase 3, right? Than Infinity War and Endgame and all that stuff. It's like, no, man, you earned Endgame. You earned Infinity War after 16 other movies. You need to like set the clock back to to midnight on this one and like start over. And they immediately did like the multiversal, trying to like make something more epic and more important. It's like, dude, you got like we got to eat our vegetables first, right? Like, all due respect, Captain America 1, I don't think is a very good movie. Thor
I agree.
1, I don't think is a very good movie.
Nope.
Iron Man 1
Totally
is like
agree.
enjoyable. It's a tough rewatch just because it's like so boring and basic. Iron Man 2 is probably my favorite of Phase 1. I know it's like, oh, what a cool contrarian pick, dipshit. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's what I feel.
It's a fun
But
movie,
like you
though.
gotta, it is, yeah. And that scene, it's all about that scene with him and his dad because I
Yeah.
love my dad, and like I just think that's a very touching moment when it's like the family movies or whatever. But like that's what they had to do, and instead they immediately went into the multiverse, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, dude, you fucked up bad. No,
Yeah, they
got to
probably
go back.
That is
back
a
a
good
little more.
point. They probably should have given it time. Don't even necessarily immediately set up anything, which they didn't really in phase 1 of the MCU. What they were setting up was the Avengers. It wasn't
Yep.
Thanos. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Like, looking back on it now, you're definitely right. But yeah, I don't know. I will say, just this is my last bit on that movie. Eventually, I'll see it, whether it's in theater or on Disney Plus or something. I mean, I'm certainly going to watch it. It's just a matter of when. But I do find it mildly amusing now, and I don't know why I didn't think about this before. But the fact that the movie is essentially a sequel to what is one of the most universally unloved MCU movies. So,
Yeah.
it's like maybe not the best choice. So
Well, that and it seemed like they answered a bunch of questions that like no one's actually asked in
Yeah.
15 years. Like no one gave a shit
no,
really about Hulk, right? Also, I don't know how you fuck up the leader.
Yeah,
I'm not like a huge Hulk aficionado. Like I don't really care for the character. I care about the artist more than I've ever cared about the story. Like I just want to
Right.
see cool shit. I don't care about the lore of the character really. But man, the leader is like such like a unique looking thing. That's like, man, this is what you did for the leader, really? Just like a dude with like an extra inch on his forehead
yeah,
and like oozing pus. Like, all right, it's the race for realism. I think is like actually the thing at this point that's kind of bothering me. And that was honestly the most fun part of all the Phase 4 stuff was how like batshit crazy it got. And
sure.
it seems like they've been like slowly reining that back in. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, like that wasn't what was wrong with these movies. What was wrong with these movies was that like there was a false sense of urgency for something we don't know enough about
For
to
sure.
feel the urgency for. It's not the fact that like, oh, it's colorful and bright and loud and there's like a blob person. Like that's not actually the issue. But
Bullfrog in the chat said, "What's it a sequel to?" Incredible Hulk. Bullfrog, the
Ed Norton.
Ed Norton, yeah, Ed Norton movie. Which actually, I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's fine. I
It's
know a lot of
perfectly
people
fine.
hate that movie, but
This is what we were talking about earlier. Like
Yeah.
a single's fine, a double's
Yeah.
fine, right? Like, and I think we've talked about this privately. I don't know if we talked about this in the podcast, but like you and I are more interested in like missing out, but like taking a big swing, right? Like something
For sure.
something that like tries
Oh,
harder
yeah.
is more interesting than
Yes.
something that doesn't try at
Well,
all.
dude,
So
that's why, and this is my MCU hot take. I love Eternals. I think that's a really good movie. I mean, I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think they certainly miss in parts of that movie, but it's just so different compared to everything else the
Yeah.
MCU has ever done. And I frankly really enjoy that movie. So
But I think that movie works because it feels like a Phase 1 movie. Shang-Chi works because that feels like a Phase 1 movie. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like you are introducing like the next generation of things that are going to matter. It doesn't have to matter immediately because that's not how you did it the first time.
sure.
And, like, look where you got. So like that's the frustrating part from the outside. But I know nothing about the machinations of multi-billion-dollar companies and film studios. I studied film history, not film production, and I know nothing about the business, so I'm not qualified. That's my 2 cents.
Well, good discussion there on the MCU. I don't think we've really talked about Marvel stuff too much on the podcast in recent months. So
No, it's nice to give a report card.
yeah. Now I'm gonna keep going. Are you gonna watch Daredevil, the new season?
You know, I actually never finished Daredevil the series.
I didn't either.
The only MCU show I ever watched in its entirety was Jessica Jones because I love that character so much. Alias was like,
Yeah.
it felt like it felt like being a kid and like hearing a punk album for the first time. That's what the comic felt like, because it was just like,
Yeah.
wait, she just said fuck. Wait, she's getting drunk. Wait, she's having sex with this guy. It was just like all this stuff that like you just never expect to see in a Marvel comic. So to me,
Yeah.
it was just like, oh my god, like no one knows the inappropriate stuff I'm engaging with right now. And I loved that show so much,
Yeah.
but I never finished Iron Fist despite loving that character, Danny Rand. I finished Luke Cage season 1. I think there was a season 2. I never did that. I never did Defenders. Never watched Punisher. Never watched beyond season 1 of Daredevil. So I'm torn. I want to because it's Born Again, but also it seems pretty concrete. Maybe that'll be like a project for me. Aaliyah's going away for like 10 days on a vacation. Maybe I will just order pizzas in mainline Daredevil for 10 days.
Yeah, you and I are on the exact same page then. What I tried to do initially was like when Daredevil first came out and then the subsequent shows started, I watched what's going on, Seth. Seth is here.
What it do, baby boo?
Let me finish what I was saying.
Party, pal.
Then we'll get to Seth. But I started watching the MCU shows on Netflix as they were airing. And so, of course, Daredevil was the first one. And, I would watch whatever came next. I think was it Jessica Jones was the second show that started? I can't remember. But I watched it all in release order, but then it got to Iron Fist. And that's what did it over for me. I got to Iron Fist, tried to watch it, and then from then on, I just never watched any of the others. So I think I watched season 1 of everything and the first 2 seasons of Daredevil. And that was as far as I progressed. So, but the new show does look good. So, anyway, Seth, what's going on? Good to see you.
Just walked in the house, dude. Got home from work, took the dog for a walk.
Nice.
Pretty fired up, ready to drop a fat, stinky pod. Ready to go.
Hell yeah.
Well, you actually came in at a good time because we just got wrapped up talking about what George has been up to past few weeks. What you been up to, Seth? What have you got going on?
Oh, dude.
You better not say some Kaseki BS over there.
Not a whole lot of that, actually. I don't know how long it's been. I got a PSVR2, which I know I told you boys about.
Yeah.
you texted the group and like, I gotta be honest, guys. And I was like, I had like a couple beers at that point. I was like, fuck, man, Seth's quitting the podcast. And then I like quit. I kept reading. I was like, oh shit, man, just doesn't like PSVR2. Oh, I could have told him that, man. Yeah, I played 3 games. That thing's been collecting dust for 8 months now.
This has all happened in that time frame of between the last episode and this episode. So give the sit rep on PSVR2. What made you buy it, and then what are your thoughts on it?
I don't know what made me buy it, actually. I don't remember.
Impulse.
And it was not an impulse buy. I sat on this idea for a few days. I don't remember where the beginning of the thought started, but I really thought about it, and after like 3 or 4 days, I was like, man, I'm just gonna go do it. I can afford it. Because my thing was like, I haven't liked any It sounds so stupid now that I'm saying it out loud. I haven't liked any VR experience before this. But this is gonna be the one, Like, I watched a lot of videos and everyone's like, no, it's so much better now, it's so good. And like 2 or 3 months ago, I set up Skyrim VR on my my Quest. Meta Quest. I have a Generation 1 Meta Quest, but with the link doesn't really matter what generation it is. So, and I went through that and I'm like, this is kind of cool, but also I would rather just sit on my couch and play Skyrim, right? Again, I don't remember exactly what made me want to go get a PSVR 2, but the idea was like eating away at my soul. So I just went and got it. And the first night with it was extremely frustrating because I don't know if you guys know this. Wait, how long ago did the PSVR 2 come out? 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Since day one, there has been a massive manufacturing issue with the PSVR 2 controllers where like oil from the manufacturing process gets underneath the trigger. And you can't use the controllers because when you launch the game, it thinks you're pulling in the triggers the whole time. So
what the heck?
there's like weird workarounds where like you turn off the controllers and then launch the game with a regular PS5 remote and then like turn the controllers back on, but it still doesn't work right because the triggers think they're getting pushed in. So if you like research this issue online, everyone's saying about how like, yeah, the only issue is to just like brute force your way through it with like compressed air and rubbing alcohol. So I sat here for 2 hours after I bought my $600, I guess it's $500 VR headset, pouring rubbing alcohol and compressed air and smashing the trigger over and over and over again with a hardware tester until I got the reading that I needed.
What the heck?
That is extremely frustrating, especially because it's going on today. Like Sony just saw that and they're like, well, no one's buying this fucking thing, so who cares, you know?
Yeah, fair dues. Yeah.
And then after I got that set up, I started playing. I forget the first. I played Bar Fight. That's fine. I played Beat Saber, and I'll be honest, Beat Saber is cool. I played Beat Saber on my Quest. My biggest issue with Beat Saber is the song selection sucks, and the soundtracks are still extremely expensive. It's like $15 for a pack of like 8 songs.
Did you get the Linkin Park?
You bet your ass I did, dude.
That's the first one I bought.
I spent like $65 on soundtrack packs the first night that I played Beat Saber, and I only played the game for maybe 20 minutes, and I was like, I'm done.
The problem with Beat Saber on console is like that game really excels on PC because the modding community is insane, and people add in all these songs, and of course you can't do it on console. So
yeah, Seth, have you gotten the PSVR2 adapter yet, so you can plug it into your PC?
My PC is just not strong enough anymore.
Okay, all right. Well, that goes in and out of stock regularly on PS Direct, and it's like $60 or whatever. But like that was also part of the reason I was excited to get the PSVR2. I'm just like, oh shit, I can play Half-Life Alyx, like with this.
Yeah,
adapter.
I mean, that's something I might look into because I do want to try Half-Life Alyx at some point. Dude, here's my issue though, right? Like the marketing around the PSVR2 is like dubious at best because the gameplay videos they show of the PSVR, the quality of the PSVR2, it's nowhere near that level. Like the resolution is so low that it like their flagship game, right? Horizon Call of the Mountain, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
I think so.
It looks like an early PS4 game when you're playing through it. And I'm like, oh god, this is.
I think it looks better than that. Did you have a PSVR 1?
Yeah,
you did. I feel like the screen door effect, right? That's what they called it, where it just looked like you could see like the lines around the pixels. Like I feel like that's completely gone. I'm really happy with the quality of the VR. The game selection's great for a year ago, 2 years ago. I'd be like, this is a great lineup. No fucking new game has come out since then. So like they supported Vita better than they supported PSVR 2.
The best game, the only game that I've played a significant amount of is the new Metro game that came out. Because everyone would say like this is like a super immersive, really beautiful game, and they're not wrong. Like it is, but there's just there's an amount of jank to VR that is really hard to explain. Like they want you to take off your backpack in this Metro game, right? And you go like this. But sometimes it doesn't work right because your hand in the game isn't reading in the exact right spot.
Because you're holstering your gun by accident, right?
Yeah, like they're like
shit like that. Yeah.
It's super frustrating, and like you got to change your oxygen canister out in your gas mask, right? And you're like smashing your controller into your face. You're like trying to find the sweet spot, or you're trying to turn on your headlamp, and you're like smashing your controller into your head. It's like, all right.
Real talk, like the more VR I played, the more I kind of like appreciated waggle controls, as dumb as that sounds, right? Where it's like, oh, like me shaking a Wiimote, that's just me pressing a button, but like it's generic enough where it's like it understands the intent of that, as opposed to like the amount of times I have accidentally holstered my gun when I meant to like open a door or something. I'm like, no, this like motherfucker, like that's not what I'm trying to do. Yeah. Maybe you should have streamlined this part considering how many fucking doors I have to open in this game. Like maybe you should have spent more time thinking about making this a more enjoyable process.
Dude,
and like that's my big issue. Like the third person perspective games, like shit like Moss. I don't know if you played Moss or Moss 2 on VR. I recommend checking out Moss just because like it's not like a first person perspective game. It's like you're interacting with the environment, helping a mouse thing go. Like that game is cool and big red wall energy. So
yeah.
I don't know, man. My thing is that I just feel like I am constantly fighting the play area, which for some reason in my room does not track right.
Yeah.
My living room is well lit, and I sit there and I can see like the screen come up. It's like this is your play area, and then it's like shifting left and right, and I don't understand why it's doing that. I notice it does not track well if I'm sitting down. I noticed that like I don't know. For me, I don't feel immersed in the game because I think that the resolution is low. I'll be honest, I don't think the PSVR2 games look hardly any better than like the Batman Arkham game that came out on the original PSVR. And I just I don't think they look good. I think Metro is the best looking game. And it's funny you bring up the opening doors, George, because I opened so many doors in that game and it never works the way it's supposed to. You're supposed to like slide these doors open, right? Like these heavy ones. And you're supposed to just be able to put both hands and slide them. But these doors must weigh like 4,000 pounds because they won't move. They'll move like a little bit every massive motion, like going like this over and over again, trying to get these doors to move. I'll tell you what though, when it comes to shooting guns, your boy still got it. I am a dead shot in Metro.
I mean, that's the sickest part, man. Like, honestly, I wouldn't buy a PSVR 2 if they figured out a way to do light gun games, right? Like if you could just like make like a House of the Dead collection that worked, or like a Time Crisis collection, like anything like that, I wouldn't need a PSVR 2. I really just want to sit on my couch and just pop out and shoot weird Dutch terrorists that are trying to escape down a canal in Time Crisis 2. That's literally all I want from a video game at this point.
I think the thing that I've realized about VR, because I bought the original PSVR years ago, like at launch, and spent quite a bit of time with that, and then I've had my Quest 2 now for several years. I guess it's been probably 3 or 4 years since I got my Quest 2, and I still use it because it's still, as you mentioned earlier, Seth, the Quest Link. Like you don't necessarily need a new Quest to run it off your PC, so it's still totally fine for my purposes. And I don't know if this is just like a personal thing, but I think the more I've played a VR, the more I've just come to realize that it's not even the games or like the experience of playing the games that I have issues with. It's like literally the headset being strapped to my face it's just so uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a big negative.
It's so uncomfortable. Like there's none of these headsets have ever been comfortable to me. And I'm sure part of it is I'm a glasses wearer, but I don't know. Like, I just never feel totally comfortable playing VR. Now, I will say this. I still think the best thing you can do in VR is play, like, multiplayer games with friends, because it's a unique experience. But I have also come to realize that a lot of those single-player games, they feel very, like, isolationist, I guess, in a way. Like, you feel very isolated from everything in a way that I wasn't expecting. I don't know if that's just how I feel, but I don't know. It's just a weird feeling. I think VR is interesting, and I do like VR, but it depends on the experience.
Yeah, I was really excited for the ability to do theater mode, right? It does not look good. Like, I really tried to play, like, Trails Through Daybreak 2. I was like, I'm going to get completely immersed in this. No distractions, right? But I can, like, not even read the text. That's the thing, because the edges of the screen get so blurry because of the, like, the concave or convex legends or whatever they're called. And, RPG text is in the text box is at the bottom. So unless I make the screen, like, really small, which at that point I might as well just watch it on my TV, So I don't know, man. It seems like I'm not alone in this. I mean, it seems like the market has pretty much completely rejected the PSVR or any VR. It doesn't seem like any of it's taking off as much as people thought 10 years ago. I don't know. I'm just not into
I think it
I'm not feeling
probably peaked with Quest 2.
Yeah. I don't think Quest 3 is doing anywhere near as
And
well as Quest 2.
Even then, I bought Quest 2 during the pandemic, and I was just bored as shit. Like, that was why I bought a Quest 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the same for us. We bought ours, like, I think it was 2020. We got ours just because we needed something that didn't require going out, that would, like, give us a unique experience.
Yeah. I got mine in 2021 just because I'm like, all right, like, I played all the PS5 games I wanted to play.
Yeah.
I would like to play something new, and then, yeah, just Beat Saber and random Star Wars shit. I really think it's like when they announced the PlayStation 4, I just assumed every game I bought on PS3, PSN would be forward compatible.
Oh.
Right? Like, do you guys remember that game Swarm, which is like a 2D like Lemmings, where you're just trying to control little gizmos, whatever. Like that, a game like Rochard, like all these games that just like came to PS3 on PSN that I grabbed, and like they weren't expensive; they were $10 games, you know. But I just expected that shit to carry forward, and like I expected that shit to carry on to like Vita too. I don't know why I thought that, but I'm like, oh, it makes sense. It's digital. You can just read the digital file. They shot themselves in the foot by not just making PSVR 1 forward compatible. And like I understand it's like a different motion control.
Oh yeah.
Team. Like I get that, but like fucking do the work, man. Like
that frustrates the shit out of me too. Because
like, I don't think you can play Astrobot on PSVR 2, right? Like I don't think they like even upgraded that game. Like what the fuck are you doing, man? Like that's your new mascot, dude. Like
Skyrim VR is playable on the PSVR 1 but not the 2 because
it's insane. It's fucking insane.
It's crazy, yeah. I don't know.
Crazy. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna
I'm gonna hook up my PSVR 1 and get that fucking platinum trophy in Skyrim VR is what I'm gonna do. Probably this summer.
Are you gonna keep it, Seth? Nothing. Like what's your plan now?
Yeah, I'm gonna mess around with it a little more. There's like a small itch to spend a ridiculous amount of money on like a wheel stand and a steering wheel and play Gran Turismo in it.
I've heard that's the best PSVR 2 game.
I do feel like that's going to be like a really cool experience. But then I'm like, at what point is this just a sunken cost fallacy, right? Like, how much at that point am I going to buy a PS5 Pro and be like, maybe that'll sell it on me, you know? I don't know.
Don't you want to do that so you could play Final Fantasy VII remake Rebirth? But I don't know.
I almost did that. I canceled my pre-order at the last second with the PS5 Pro.
I was going to ask you that the other day because I remember you were pretty like dead set on buying it. I couldn't remember if you had actually ended up buying one or not. So
no, I guilt got the best of me because like me and Caitlin trying to save up for our wedding and whatnot. And I was like, I don't need to spend that extra money on a PS5 Pro. And like months later, you know, I buy a PSVR 2. But
way better,
yeah, way better. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it, man. And I've gone through the list of games that I want to play. Like the bar fight game is like really stupid. I don't even know what the point of it is. It's like this like weird multi-stage sandbox game where like it's not hard. You're not getting in like real fights. The best fighting game on VR is the Creed boxing game. That's sweet. That game is awesome. I played a lot of that on Quest. That's on PSVR 2 as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm probably gonna beat Metro. I like Metro a lot. It just looks like not what I'm expecting video games released in 2025 to look like.
I do think we should, like I said in the chat like a week or two ago, I do think we should find the three of us like some games that we could do online together. I know Arizona Sunshine 2 is crossplay, so we could try that. And I've heard good things about that game. I think it's pretty high quality because, like I said, I do think like the few times I've played VR with friends online, it is kind of a different experience because you're like seeing another person moving, even though you're in a different room, and it's just kind of unique multiplayer experience. So,
also, one thing I was really excited to find out is that I am completely immune to the VR motion sickness. So that's good. So I just turn that baby on smooth movement and I just go for it. I do get like a floaty feeling though. So I feel what I can imagine is what makes other people sick, because I get like a almost like an elevator feeling when you're going down. You can feel like your weight get lifted off. That's how I feel with it. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of cool, but it's just not my thing.
I never stopped playing it because of sickness. Honestly, this is gonna sound weird, and maybe Seth, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe Austin, you know what I'm talking about, because like you have VR too. I feel more guilty playing a VR game than I do like a not VR game. If that makes sense.
I agree with you on that.
Just like the amount of like, just like sitting on the couch, like doing that feels like more selfish or self-indulgent than just like sitting with like a controller looking at the TV. Like, I feel when I say guilty, it's like, oh hey, like my girlfriend is doing stuff around the house. I'm gonna play some video games or whatever. I feel way worse if I'm doing a VR game than if I'm not doing a VR game.
And the thing is, like, even if she or whoever is in your house at that time asks you a question or tries to talk to you about something, you're not even gonna know. Like, you're not even gonna know that they're bothering you.
Maybe that's what it is. And like, I played games where like Aaliyah's walked by and she's just like stared at the screen. She's like, "Oh, this looks really pretty." I'm like, "Yeah, it is really pretty. It's blah 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 this or whatever." Or like I'm playing like A Short Hike is like a game I was playing recently, and I was playing it's like a little bird or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, he's cute." I'm like, "He's super cute." But then like if I'm playing VR, then like she can't see exactly what I'm seeing, and like it is like I've like removed myself mentally but not physically, so like she's expecting me to be present, but I'm very not present. I don't know if like that's what it is, but I feel like a bigger dumb oafy boyfriend when I'm playing PSVR compared to just normal PS5.
Yeah, I totally understand you with that. Usually I sit there and have this awkward situation where I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna put on my VR headset. Is that
See you later.
You? And she's like, yeah, of course. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you gonna tell me if it's not?
Well, that's why I always like before. It's like, oh hey, like, are you doing anything? She's like, yeah, I'm gonna be out in the shed woodworking. I'm like, okay, cool. Then I won't feel bad. But if she's just like sitting down, like in bed, if she's like, yeah, like I had a headache earlier, I'm like, okay, is there anything I can get you? Would you like me to make you lunch? Would you like me to order you lunch from any place? I can go pick it up. Would you like water? Would you like me to go and get you? So like, I'm just like, I'm like checking all these boxes, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna tune the fuck out for like 2 hours. I just did my due diligence as like a boyfriend, as a partner, as like a person who cares about this other person. Now I'm just gonna fuck off, just be a degenerate in my digital world and shoot Star Wars gangsters, fucking Kanji Club.
Let's see. Other than that, dude, have you guys been watching Dragon Ball Daima at all?
No, but I see this clip going around about Vegeta being like called away from fighting this thing, and I have no idea what the context is, and it's pretty damn funny.
Yeah. I've seen subtitles. It's she say like, "I'll never take a bath with you again."
Yeah.
Is that actually the line from the show, or is that fan edits?
Because like
Vegeta.
It's Bulma, right? She's like the hot rich girl of Dragon Ball, and Vegeta landed that, and there's always like that weird dynamic there between Vegeta and Bulma, where like she has like an iron grip around him. And he's like the prince of all Saiyans, right? It's such a funny scene. And also they're trying to keep it PG. Also, what I wanted to say is Daima is terrible. It's like a truly awful show.
Well then.
Is it like GT bad, or
it's so much worse, dude? It's so much worse.
Come on.
It is. It really is. But the last 2 episodes have been phenomenal because it's like they're like nearing the end, and nothing happens for the first 16 episodes that's significant at all. It's really a I don't understand what they were doing with it. You could have made it an hour and a half movie. This is Akira Toriyama's final work, and this is what we got. The ship they're flying through the demon realm breaks down every other episode, and it's not fun. I think there's a lot of people in denial about it, but there's also like a huge swath of the internet that's like, this sucks. This show is terrible. But we all have come together, I think, and said that the last 2 episodes have been phenomenal in that like they canonized a lot of stuff that wasn't canon before. And your boy called it. I don't want to spoil it here because I don't know if anyone's listening that hasn't seen it yet. There's a massive reveal in Daima that I called in the first episode to Caitlin because I'm like, in the last 10 years, pretty much all Dragon Ball has done has like made fan fiction canon. There's one thing that people loved about Dragon Ball that was like super popular, and they never touched it. And in Daima they did.
I think I saw what you're talking about because for some reason I'm just like getting spoiled on all these clips. I don't even know why. Like I don't follow any Dragon Ball like Twitter accounts. I'm just like seeing these.
It's a pretty big deal.
These videos
I
of Daima.
Does Trunks get a haircut? That's like the only thing I hope they don't touch.
That happened in Super, buddy.
I didn't watch Super. He got a haircut? He doesn't have the cool shit anymore?
Dude.
Right,
Trunks and Super is like there's a really good story arc in Super that deals with specifically future Trunks, right? The same one that fought the androids with the main crew.
Yeah.
He got such a downgrade in Super, and they changed his hair color from purple to blue, and they made him really skinny. And like he's not the cool character from the Android Saga anymore that chopped Freeze into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
Sucks.
He was like I think I said this before. Like when I was a kid, I thought the three coolest people on the planet. I've always said the two coolest people, but I'm just like adding a third now. I always thought the three coolest people on the planet were fucking Busta Rhymes, number one. Thought he was the coolest person in the world. Thought Daria from the show Daria was so cool just because she was so sarcastic and she didn't give a shit. And then it was Trunks in that leather jacket with like the black tank top, the fucking sword. He was the only person who's ever made parted hair look cool, like center parted hair look cool. God, what a dude!
Yeah,
I'll watch Super and get really angry like you, Seth. I can't wait.
Dude, no, hold on. I'm not just an angry person, all right? There's a lot of stuff that I like.
About Trunks. I was being sincere. I thought we were both Team Trunks.
Dude, we are Team Trunks. And you know what's crazy is that arc is actually phenomenal. Like it's one of the best arcs I think in all of Dragon Ball, but they do not nail the ending, and it's so frustrating that they screw up the ending of this arc. And I don't even know what they were going for with the ending. I mean, the ending is so abysmally bad. It's like memed on constantly. I don't know. What are we talking about?
Just what you've been doing. You've been playing that Trails stuff. Nonsense.
Not really. I'm not digging the new game. I'm not really digging the new game, dude.
I thought you were taking a break from the new games. I thought you were taking a break from the series in general.
I was taking a break from racing Pedro so I could enjoy slowly work my way through it and play it when I wanted to. But the new game doesn't have a good hook. There's like a really defined pattern with the Trails series when they introduce a new region. The first game's a slow burn where they introduce all the characters and usually ends on like a cliffhanger. The second game is like a straight up barn burner, as Jim Ross would say. And then they have like a finale game.
God!
Yeah, my God! And then they have like a finale game that like kind of is like a fan service, like it wraps everything up. The characters meeting other characters from the other regions and whatnot. Daybreak 2 seems to have no hook whatsoever. The first one didn't really end on like a big cliffhanger. Just kind of, and
this is the one that's supposed to be Empire Strikes Back, barn burner.
Yeah,
right?
but it's not. Yeah,
no.
So I'm not really
interested.
But I'm gonna obviously have to play through it because it's the 12th game in the series, so it's not like I can stop now.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I've been doing quite a bit. I don't even know where to start. I'll just kind of plow through some things. In the past 3 weeks or whatever it's been since we recorded last, I started playing Balatro, which I had not played at all.
Hell yeah.
I got my new S25 Samsung phone and was just looking for something to kind of, break it in and look at the screen and see how well things ran and check out the battery life. And I just saw that on the Google Play Store and was like, this seems like a good way to play it. So I've kind of stopped playing it. It didn't last very long, but there were 2 weeks where I was just playing it constantly every day on my phone. And it runs great on mobile. It's a great way to play it on mobile. But I've never been a card game guy, and I think that's still even with kind of this poker-esque format, kind of carried over. I mean, I love the game, but it's not something I can play long term, I don't think. So, but it's good. It's good. Like, I understand the hype. It's really well made.
Game has taken over my friend group to the point where like we don't play. We call it Goose Night for whatever reason. And we used to always play like Helldivers or whatever. Everyone's kind of sick of Helldivers because we've all got the platinum and have like 300 hours in it. And now everyone just like plays Balatro while in the group chat.
Nice.
And they're just like explaining what they do while they play. Like,
That's
I
awesome.
just got a 15 times multiple. I'm like, this sucks. Like, this isn't exactly what I want to do, but I'm going to do it because I love my bros. So
it's good, man. I really think it's well made, and I get the addiction. Andy's been playing it too, and I like it. I do want to go back to it. It's just, I don't know. There's something about card games for me that have never, like, the addiction has never fully set in on any single card game for me. But then on top of that, just sticking with mobile, Andy and I have got really into, and I'm sure it's because Wilds is coming out, but really into Monster Hunter Now, which is the mobile game, kind of Pokemon Go style, from Niantic. That is Monster Hunter on mobile, and we had played a bit of it before in the past, just never like sunk a ton of time into it. But now we have both been playing a lot of it. We've been walking around like our downtown area here, and like going and gathering things, and the way the game works, you can paintball monsters. That way you can go back to them later and fight them. So what we'll do is both of us will like paintball monsters throughout the day, and then come home, after work, and then both of us together can fight all these monsters that we've paintballed throughout the day, which has been pretty fun. So I like it though. We were talking about this in the chat the other day. The one thing I'll say is the monetization is like flat out egregious in that game, and I know Niantic's kind of been pulling that on all of their games, Pokemon Go as well, but it's pretty rough in Monster Hunter Now. I haven't spent any money except for on like their season pass. You get a bunch of extra items and stuff, and clothing items, but the potions, it works just like a Monster Hunter game, where if you're fighting a monster, they can hit you and you lose health, and you need to use a potion to restore your health. Dude, the potions are like, no joke, $1 each, and they will only heal half your health, which, I mean, literally could vanish in one hit from a monster. So it's completely absurd. And thankfully you get 5 free potions a day, but if you're not careful, if you're like really taking a lot of hits, I mean, you could absolutely blow through all 5 potions in one monster. So
I found it extremely immersion breaking and annoying to the point where I stopped playing the game.
Yeah.
Someone was like, "Oh, I have a guy from work that plays it too," and he's like, "Well, why don't you just ignore it?" And I'm like, "Well, it kind of doesn't let you ignore it. It pops up every time."
Yeah. It's not like Pokemon Go. Like Pokemon Go, I feel like you could just keep playing forever and ever. Like you could play it for hours, as long as you're near I don't even remember what they're called, but the things you spin and you get Pokeballs from them. Yeah, Pokestops. You get Pokeballs from them. Like you could just keep playing it. You don't have to spend money. But Monster Hunter Now, certainly, if you're, getting hit by monsters frequently, it's something that you would literally need to stop playing like pretty quick each day. If you're just blowing through your potions, which I'm not a big fan of. Like I would much prefer a game that rewards you for walking and going out and seeing things like Pokemon Go does. It's definitely a little more harsh from that standpoint. But I still think overall, like the gameplay is really, really good. It does translate the weapons and stuff pretty well into mobile. So what else have I had going on? I have been playing a bit more Dynasty Warriors Origins. Coach is like way far ahead of me. I think he's put in like 100 hours into that game now at this point. I'm at 26 hours and I'm on chapter 4 of 5. Sadly, with Monster Hunter Wilds coming out Friday, there's no way I'm going to beat it. In fact, I've pretty much already put it down because I'm in this mood now where Wilds is 2 days away and I just don't want to play anything else. Like I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Did you take the day off for Wilds?
I took 4 days off for Wilds.
Fuck yeah.
So
God, you're a real one, Austin. I don't care what the chat says.
Yeah.
Look at
So,
you.
and Andy also took off Friday, so the two of us are just ready for that game. And sadly, we found out we're going to have to attend a funeral on Saturday for an extended family member, so that'll kind of pull us away for a bit. But, for the most part, we've got other things.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at like a deceased family member. I'm sorry. I'm
No.
laughing at you being like, yeah, it's gonna pull us away. But then we'll be right back into it.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
As soon as we get into, man, I saw some clip earlier today.
Done with this stupid funeral. We're back.
We're bringing Steam Decks. We're gonna stream it the second it's over. So
I saw some footage today of like the original Monster Hunter from like 2004.
Yeah.
And it's just like amazing that game got a second chance.
Yeah.
Like, because it looked so generic, it looked so unpolished. Like, it looked like here's 12 ideas. I hope you like them. And like that was the game. And the fact that they got another chance. Sorry, I'm just thinking about like all the other games that didn't get chances. All the things that's just like, why'd you cancel it here? Why'd you cut it down at the legs here? When like you could have, like, we don't even know what the thing is yet, but we know we're on to something. And I'm really I don't give a shit about Monster Hunter, but I'm really happy for you because I know you really give a shit about. I know Andy really gives a shit about Monster Hunter. But it's so amazing to see how far that game has come over the last 21 years. Like that's insane.
It's funny you bring that up because that was one of the last things I was going to touch on. Was I've been messing around with emulators, and it's just something I've never really messed with. Looking at like further generations, so of course I've played like Super Nintendo emulators and NES and like the older ones, but I was messing around this week with PS2 and was playing the original Monster Hunter game on it, and because I've never played 1 or 2. And so I thought I would give it a shot and just kind of see how it plays. And it plays absolutely terrible in 2025. But you're so right, George. Like playing it, I mean, it's still interesting. But I wonder if I would find it interesting had I played it at that time in 2004 or whenever it was. I find it interesting now because of my love for the series. But there are so many different things about that game that just don't work right. Like they try to do some ape escape BS where your attacks are all on your right analog stick. Where if you like push up, you do certain attacks, and if you push left, you do an attack, or right, you do an attack. It's not good. It's really hard.
That's some VR bullshit right there.
Yeah. So
wasn't there a Matrix game that had combat like that? Like
Enter the Matrix,
PS2?
right?
I think so.
Yeah. Use the analog stick, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I've been messing around with the PS2 emulator, and it's been fun to play around with that. Like Monster Hunter 1, there's a patch you can install that makes it widescreen, and you can like up-res it to 4K, and it's been pretty neat. So
you and I are going to talk a lot after we finish recording.
Yeah. Messed around with SOCOM. Messed around with one of my favorite series from PS2, SOCOM. I played just a few minutes of some games here and there just to see how they ran, and it's definitely something I'm going to be playing around with more in the future. And I did, just on this topic, I did order a Anbernic, the SP model, which is like, for those who are unaware, it's like this cheap little Chinese emulator essentially that looks, it's a pretty well-known company at this point, but they make all these different emulators that look like different systems. So they came out with a standard GBA style emulator about 2 months ago. But before that, they released an SP, GBA SP style one, and it's all the same chipset. So it's just different form factors. But they're cheap. Like the one I ordered was on sale for $41, and it can play up through PS1. So it's, I haven't received it yet, but I'm looking forward to messing around with that.
I was mad at you for getting that because I'm like, dude, you want a Steam Deck? Just get a Steam Deck. Like that can run all the fucking emulators you want. So I was like a little frustrated. But then I was like really thinking about it, and like I got so jealous that you bought that because everything I own is like horizontal set, right? Where like everything's here, and like I kind of miss having like a vertical system, and I got incredibly jealous. But I know it's all square, but like, man, I would love to have a Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance system. Like that would be sick.
I have this like weird thing with the Steam Deck. Like I keep really wanting it, but then I just see that price. Like it is so damn expensive.
I sent you the refurbished listing.
I
sent
know, but
you
it's
like
still like it's at least $400 depending on what you get. And I don't know. I think if I had got it at launch or like within the launch window, I'd be a little more confident in my purchase. I think the issue I'm having is it's so late now. Like it's been several years. I'm worried I'm going to spend $500 and then they're going to release a new one next year. So I don't know.
I bought this. I don't give a shit about PC games. Like as soon as every PC game started coming to consoles, I'm like, this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's not like a fourth console anymore.
Yeah.
This is like literally one of the most comfortable controllers I've ever held in my hand, and like I bought this to be an emulator machine.
Well,
and so like this, like I stopped thinking about it as like a video game console and just like a video game archive, where I'm just like, okay, this is it plays everything up through PS2.
Yeah,
sick. That's 30 years of gaming just in my hands, and so I'm think you're gonna really enjoy your Ambernick, because every video I've seen about it is just like, this is like a perfect like tinkerer platform. Where like, now you can run garlic on it and get like even better color distribution for the like all this random shit that like I think you would find really interesting. That's the shit that bores me. I'm not making fun of you. I just
no, but you're right.
I don't
like
care.
I've been looking into all that, and
like, I just want the most like stock normal thing ever. I don't want to tinker too much, but I'm excited for you to get into it for a project like that, because that seems like a great summer thing when things slow down.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've been looking at it as, like just kind of test the waters, see what it's like. I mean, frankly, I've been watching Retro Game Core on YouTube. It's a really good YouTube channel. He focuses entirely on these handheld emulators. Like all of his videos are about Ambernick and the Neo or whatever that company is, and then the Miu is the other one that everybody talks about, Miu Mini and Miu Mini Plus.
The Miu Mini looks gorgeous just because it's like a big stupid square screen with like such a small like bevel of like where the console, like where the buttons are. Like it looks gorgeous.
So point being though, like he does all these reviews and walkthroughs and guides, and like he'll do his best handhelds of the year. Retroid is the other one too I was thinking of. But I've been watching him for years at this point, and it's just kind of been like a window shopping. Like I've just been watching him review all these things,
right?
Not knowing if I'm ever gonna buy one or not. So when I saw this one was on sale, though, I was like, I'm just gonna try it. Like $40 is low cost. We'll see how it goes. And the thing I like about the SP2, it was his favorite handheld last year because it's so small and you can just close it up and throw it in your bag. Like I'm thinking, if I go on a trip or something, I can just throw it in there, or throw it in my bag or whatever it may be. So that was kind of my thought with the Ambernick.
The battery on those things is great. Like you're a Sonic fan, you could have like literally every Sonic game. You could have literally every Pokemon game ever. Like it's a good travel system, and it's always like what USB-C to charge it, which like you're gonna have anyway because your phone.
So I'll report back though. I'm looking forward to testing it out. So,
George,
I think that's really it.
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I have a specific issue with the Steam Deck that I'm wondering if you share, because like you, I find the Steam Deck to have pretty much the most ergonomic design of any controller handheld ever. I find it very uncomfortable to play though because it's heavy. Do you also have this issue?
I don't have that issue because I mostly play it laying down. So like it's like on my chest, like I don't notice the weight. And the only other times I've really played it is like at my desk, like right here, like where I'm recording. But I've never traveled with my Steam Deck and played it while traveling. So I can't comment on that. But I would have to. It's not light, like if it feels hefty, it feels substantial, which is like another thing where I'm like, fuck, they really designed the shit out of this thing. Like this doesn't feel like a toy. This feels like actual computer hardware. But what position are you playing it in that you get annoyed with?
Well, so like it specifically like almost burns my shoulders to hold it in front of me. If I'm trying to like play it on the couch, I usually put like a pillow or something on my lap. And I actually found it extremely uncomfortable to play on vacation last time I traveled at the airport. Cause I'm like, I got like a hour in the airport. I'll, hook up my Steam Deck and play it. kind of isn't fun to play because like it's kind of annoying and uncomfortable to play because it is like substantially heavy.
I was inspired by because it's the first time I played a handheld where like my hands didn't cramp holding it, and so because of that, I actually went online. I found like some random third party PlayStation Vita like case that is just like bigger. So like now my hands don't cramp when I play Vita, and it's just like, oh, this is a fucking game changer. I like never considered that, but man, the Steam Deck is so good and feels so good in your hand.
I think like when it really comes down to it, if the Switch 2 was not releasing this year, I probably would be buying one because especially with Wilds coming out. And, you know, I think I mentioned on last podcast several weeks ago that I had been messing around with the Steam Link and streaming games to it from my PC upstairs and like flawless with no latency. And so I'd still see myself like playing the Steam Deck and streaming the higher quality games.
I hear you. So. And like even with the Steam Deck, I still intend to get a little dinky Anbernic just for the like I want like a IPS screen that's small and square just to play Super Nintendo games and Game Boy Advance games most of all.
Sure.
So I don't think it's not a bad purchase, but I'm like, man, that was like 1/5 of like the refurbished Steam Deck. You should have just scaled up and just grabbed the Steam Deck. But
I know eventually I will, I'm sure, but not now. So
fair enough.
All right. Well, George,
we talked really quick. Like, there's an article. I honestly like. Let me read it more, and we'll talk about it next week. I'm good to record next week.
Okay.
State of play really quickly before we wrap up because I know we're getting there. I don't want to go like I know in the past we've gone through every announcement. I have no interest in doing it that way this time. I just want to comment largely two things. One, I can't believe of all the remasters we're getting a Days Gone remaster. That like legit kind of pissed me off. Two, all the games look great. All the games look 90% the same as every other game was shown. And my issue is like these games all look so serious that I'm like, where's the fun? Like the most anticipated game for me is the octopus game, the Dave or Darwin's Paradox is like the one I'm most excited for because that one feels like the most like what if video games were fun. Everything else seems so self-important. Dreams of Another, Hell Is Us, Lies of P, all this shit, Mind's Eye, all this stuff seems so like, no, this is the dark, gritty third-person action game you've been waiting for. It's like, actually, I've played several dozen of those in the last couple years, and things are like not super great in the real world. So I kind of want something more escapist. So like the Octopus game, I thought looked great. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, I didn't play the beta. You did.
Oh.
You had some comments.
I meant to talk about
Split Fiction, I'm excited to play. Splitgate, just because it's like bright and colorful, and I actually loved the first Splitgate, so I can't believe they got a Splitgate too. And but shit like Tides of Annihilation was what everyone was talking about. I'm like, this looks like 19 other games. Like, I'm sure it's going to be good. I'm not trying to shit on Eclipse Glow Studio or whoever developed it, but I'm like, man, this looks like a lot of other stuff we've already played. So that's my 10,000 foot view of the state of play. Octopus, yes. Every other game looks like every other game, and I'm going to play a majority of them. So like, I'm not shitting on them. I'm just my quick takeaways.
There were some good games on it for sure. Like, I'm sure, Seth, are you excited for Digimon?
Dude, I'm so excited.
It looks good.
This game's been
really good
for a decade. Yeah, I can't wait, man. I'm hyped.
But I will say, like, I totally understand and agree with what you're saying, George, especially these third-person, like, melee combat games. You know, we had a period where everything was Souls-like, and now I feel like we're, for some reason, in this period where everything is, like, near Automata, Platinum, like,
Final
Wukong,
Fantasy,
like, it all just looks the same to me. Like, all these Tides of Annihilation and, there were some other ones that were announced, but I frankly I don't even remember their names. But Lost Soul aside, I think had been announced in the past. But just all those games were shown here, and they just all look the same to me. Like, I couldn't tell you which was which. So, and you know, I'm sure it's just because I'm not paying attention enough or excited enough for these. But that was kind of the same thing I walked away with.
it's not even the gameplay I have an issue with. It's like the tone where everything is like a self-serious, incredibly dour, like
Yeah.
fantasy neo-noir vibe where everything is just like, yeah, here's the sword and chain and shit that you expect from a fantasy game, but like we're gonna make it depressing as shit. Like it's like a 80s crime. I'm like, where's the Shinobi game? Can we watch that Shinobi trailer, Art of Vengeance? Because like that looked cool. Can we watch the Darwin again, please?
Yeah.
So that's the stuff I'm most excited for. Is the stuff that just looked the most different from everything else in that. But like, I'm sure all these games are gonna do great. I'm sure all these games are gonna be really creative. I don't mean to disparage the developers, but it does look like heavy shit. And like, I was kind of hoping for some lighter fare, I guess.
I think this was a really good state of play, and I don't understand why people are angry about it. I think it's very strange. I don't know what else you would really want. I think Time Stranger is awesome. Like, I wonder if people are coming into these states of play being like, I want every game to speak to me, right? Because if I walk into one of these and I'm like, oh, there's 2 or 3 games there that I think look awesome. I feel satisfied, you know?
Yeah.
Sure. Like, did I care about the WWE 2K25 or Dave the Diver stuff? No, but I think it was pretty cool. Like, I think Split Fiction looks really cool. I think Tides of Annihilation looks really cool. I don't know, man. I was pretty impressed. I kind of want to play Days Gone Remastered. I didn't play the original one, and I've always been like curious about it, so I figured maybe this is the time to do it. I don't know. I thought. Oh, also, dude, how long are we gonna do just cinematic trailers? I can't take it anymore,
dude.
1,000%.
With Saros, come on, like video games look good enough now that you can just give me gameplay. Also, here's the other thing I want to say about this: is that not Raul?
It is. It is.
It is, right?
Yeah. No, it's confirmed. It's him.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I was like, someone stole his likeness.
No, it's him.
I watched that and I was like, that's Raul.
Because he was actually, Alana Pierce was streaming like a reaction to the state of play, and he was there with her on the stream as they were reacting, and like he straight up said like, oh, that's me. I'm in this game.
Wait, is that the guy from Halo Infinite?
No.
I don't even know why he's famous. I forget why he's famous.
He's been in some smaller stuff. He was in George, you probably know him. Did you ever watch, oh my god, the Netflix horror show that came out? Holy crap.
Wasn't he an IGN guy?
Like
wasn't Raul an IGN
Midnight
guy?
Mass?
Midnight Mass.
Whatever?
He was the main guy in Midnight Mass. Yeah. You were trying to say something, and I forget what.
I thought that was the dude from Halo Infinite, like the pilot that's like flying you around, and I got so excited because I thought this was going to be like a Halo announcement for PlayStation, which was like the rumor around the time. But Seth, like I totally agree. Like I didn't think every game was supposed to be for me. It was just like tonally every game seemed to overlap like a little bit, which like makes for a smooth show. But also like, okay, like I just played Final Fantasy 16, and like a lot of these games are feeling very Final Fantasy 16ish. Also, I like the island shit for WWE 2K. I am mad about that because that's just like exactly what they did for NBA 2K for WWE 2K, where it's like a hub with like a centralized world, and I'm like, oh fuck, like these games, like it's like the Ubisoft effect where like every game mirrors mechanics. I'm just like, oh shit, this finally happened to WWE, and so now I'm like, okay, so like unless one game changes, no other game is ever going to change. So, like that was the only frustrating thing. But besides that, yeah, there's 5 games here that like I want to buy, and like I actually really want to buy Warriors Abyss, even though I have no interest in Dynasty Warriors whatsoever.
Yeah, I wasn't really talking about like you. I was talking more about the people that were like spamming L in the chat when the show was over. I'm like, I don't understand what you even are interested in.
Those guys are fucking losers.
I think you're probably more high on it than I was, Seth, but I thought it was fine. Like I didn't think it was a bad state of play or anything. I just thought it was totally like serviceable. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was terrible. But I do want to go back to Saros just for a second. I will say that the ending on that note kind of at that point in time put a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, looking back on it now and looking at the list of games they've announced, like there were some really good games shown off here, but ending on a CGI trailer from a studio that is known for their gameplay.
Yeah.
It's like, what? I don't know. That just seemed very poor taste.
Dude, I'm just, this is like such a mid 2000s thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, video games look so good now that we do not need to do this anymore. I don't understand why we're still doing this. You've given me nothing. I don't know anything about the game other than it's been by Housemarque, and there's definitely going to be a lot of bullets flying everywhere.
Right.
You know, but the average person's not going to know that.
No.
I know that because I'm a huge fucking nerd. So why did we invest in making this trailer? I don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you said that. Like, cutscenes used to be like a reward, right? Like,
Yeah.
you play through the game or play through the level, and then just like, oh, let me see something really pretty that like you've never seen anywhere else before. And now you're right, where it is just like, fuck it. Like, all the cutscenes look so realistic. It's just like, it's the uncanny valley effect. Where I'm like, oh, this just looks like shitty live action at this point.
So
and the gameplay, the smoothness. Sorry, the smoothness of the gameplay is like what's actually impressive because shit happens in a game that could never happen in a movie. So sorry.
Well, and like I said, Housemarque is a studio known for their gameplay. They're not known for their story. I mean, it's not like, I'm not saying this would have been acceptable either, but it would be different in my opinion, ending on a CGI shot of the chains of Olympus and Kratos picks them up. Like, you know, God of War 6 is announced or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that's great either, but it's something. It's something to get people hyped.
It means more. No, that's.
But ending on a CGI trailer,
right?
like, Housemarque is known because their games play extremely well, and there was just nothing you could get from that trailer that would indicate anything on that front. So I really hated that announcement, but aside from that, like, I thought it was fine. But I did want to touch on briefly, because you brought it up, George, and I forgot about it earlier. One of the announcements here was the closed beta for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. And since, you know, last time we recorded the podcast and today, the beta has happened, and I did play it. Not a ton of it. I probably only played about an hour and a half. It's fine. It's I hope they make some improvements. For now, like, it's probably not one I'm going to buy. It's certainly no Sonic Racing Transformed. Like, that game was just so good from a mechanic standpoint. Like, it really felt like a Mario Kart rival with how fluid and smooth everything felt. The issue I had with this game was the controls just didn't work for me. The karts did not feel light enough as they should have been. They felt very heavy. And it just, when you were drifting around corners and stuff, it's not entirely what I was hoping for. But then on top of that, the item frequency is like absolutely insane. And this is something they can fix, I'm sure, by turning down some sliders. But what I mean by that is, you know, in Mario Kart, typically you'll get to your item box, you'll smash into it. It'll stay disappeared for like 3 or 4 seconds. And then, you know, if somebody drives through behind you, they're not going to get an item because they've just driven through this box that you've already broken down. Well, at least in this beta for Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, you would hit the box and then a new one would show up literally a quarter of a second later. And so it created this issue, at least for me, where items were just flying like constantly. Like every second of the race, items were everywhere. Every single place you could look, you were getting hit by items. You were seeing items go past you. You were seeing, you know, powered up guys fly by you at every second of every moment of the race. And it was so overwhelming. It was hard to keep up with what was actually happening. So I hope they make some improvements. But for now, not exactly positive on it. So we'll see. But I hope it's good because I love Sonic Transform. But guys, anything else y'all want to add on before we wrap it up here?
No, I think next week I'll be able to record next week, pending any kind of like last minute emergency. I sent you guys an article. And I want us to do some more research on Microsoft Muse, the AI model from them. And I would like to have a discussion to the best of our ability about AI in game development, if that's something you guys would be interested in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's a good time too, because next week I'll obviously be talking about Monster Hunter Wilds, and there's been a lot of controversy with the PC version of that game because they've been recommending people use frame generation, which is AI, to increase the frame rate, which is, I personally think, pretty ridiculous. So we'll see what turns out with the game. But yeah, I think that's a good thing to talk about.
Everything AI is ridiculous, and it makes me furious every time the conversation is brought up. Anytime, so this is gonna be a fun episode.
I actually use AI. I use AI at work, not because I necessarily want to, but because I feel like managers are trying to justify the license, and I have a different take on AI about when it's appropriate to use it and when it's not appropriate to use it. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Look at this. look at us just generating content.
Yeah,
and cliffhanging,
amazing,
just teasing the shit out of you. Yeah.
I'll have to wait until next time. All right, guys. Well, good show, and I suppose we'll see you next week.
Latest on the men, Jay.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Frameskip. Don't forget you can find the show on social media at FrameSkipPod. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow us each individually on Twitter. George is at Shortbox Summary, Seth is at Seth the 90s Kid, and I, Austin Eller, am at Austin J. Eller on Twitter. If you've got a question, comment, or topic you'd like to hear discussed on the next episode of Frameskip, you can do so by submitting it to us on social media. Email us at frameskippodcast@gmail.com or visit bit.ly/frameskipq. That's bit.ly/frameskipq. The show is typically live on YouTube every week, either on Tuesday or Wednesday. You can find our YouTube channel at bit.ly/frameskiplive. Don't forget to subscribe and be notified when we do go live, typically at about 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.